Hello and welcome to the Genuine Learning Blog. My name is Melissa Galasso, and today we're going to talk about a new ethics interpretation around compliance audits. Now, this is a standard or interpretation that is really focused on single audits, in particular AUC Section 935, and how we handle certain independence requirements. And so this was proposed last year, and it was finally issued as a final standard. Remember, now for ethics interpretations, because we don't have a physical print version of the Journal of Accountancy, when it is in the Journal of Accountancy online, that counts as notice, right? So historically, the way they would notify CPAs about changes in ethics was they put it in the back of the Journal of Accountancy. We don't get a print magazine anymore, so when they put it in the online version, that now counts as notice. All right, so what is a compliance audit, right? That's the first thing that this does, is provide a new definition. And so a compliance audit is an attest engagement that is performed in accordance with AUC Section 935, or compliance audits, right? So that is the section that we use when we are performing single audits in accordance with the uniform guidance. And so it says when a compliance audit performed in accordance with AUC Section 935 includes separate reporting under AUC Section 725 or 805. So that would be, for example, your CIFA. If you are doing an in relation to opinion on the CIFA, that would be AUC Section 725. If you were giving an opinion on the CIFA directly because you didn't also audit the financial statements, that would be an 805 report. This definition also extends to the audit of the schedule or statement that will accompany the AUC Section 935 report. So in this scenario, whatever report you're providing on the CIFA is included in the definition of a compliance audit. Now, what they had to really work on to differentiate here was what kind, when we think about a CIFA can be a lot of different entities combined, right? So you can have a single organization, or you can have a series of single audits, right? So there's a lot of flexibility in how we do this. And so a compliance audit may include multiple compliance audit clients. And we'll talk a little bit about why that's super important. And the example they provide is multiple compliance audit clients may have amounts included in the CIFA in a compliance audit performed in accordance with the uniform guidance. So this is sort of that concept here where we're trying to get all of the federal funding, and we have to have multiple entities potentially wrapped into one CIFA, and so then we would have multiple compliance audit clients. So what is a compliance audit client? It's an entity with respect to which a compliance audit is performed, right? So that's sort of the sort of the definition of the definition. But it tells us that members should apply the independence rules, which is 1.200.001, and related interpretations applicable to the attest client to the compliance audit client. So again, when we're looking at independence here, you do have, if you're doing a compliance audit, have to maintain your independence. However, they do provide a little bit of a clarification/exception. It says, to the extent the compliance audit includes amounts from multiple entities in a schedule or statement, right? Think CIFA, an entity would not be considered a compliance audit client and therefore would not have to apply the independence rules, and related interpretations would not apply with respect to an entity if, and there's two elements. First, it is not subject to the compliance audit procedures, and it includes amounts in the schedule or statement that are trivial and clearly inconsequential to the schedule or statement as a whole. So obviously, if you're familiar with single audits, we don't actually audit every program, right? We only audit major programs, and we do what we call major program determination. And if an item is clearly trivial, they very rarely get selected for being audited. And so there are times where we have a line item that is, it could even be material, and we just don't audit it because it's not its time to be audited. So for A programs, we have a 3-year rotation typically. Obviously, COVID money is a little bit different, but general rule, we do have a 3-year rotation on our A programs. And then our B programs, which are smaller programs, right, we only have to have a certain number of them. And so we don't even have to risk assess all of them sometimes. And so in this scenario, if we're not performing any procedures on that line item and it's clearly trivial or inconsequential to the statement, right, to the CIFA as a whole, then we don't have to apply independence rules. So if there's some entity who has minor amounts amount of federal funding that's included in the CEFA, we don't have to worry about those independence rules. So when an entity meets the definition of a compliance audit client, the client affiliate's interpretation and the state and local government affiliates interpretation do not apply. So again, when you are looking through this, these affiliate rules, they are giving a little bit of an exception to. So if you're doing a single audit, they're kind of moving away from these affiliate requirements. And so they're pretty complicated. If you have governmental entities that we actually just recently had, the new state and local government client affiliate really expand who we had to be independent of, they kind of walked away from that. And then they also updated the definition of a financial statement attest client. And so the first bullet is the same. It's an entity whose financial statements are audited, reviewed, or compiled when the member's compilation report does not disclose a lack of independence, right? So that would be the original definition. But they added the second bullet, which we bolded. This definition does not include a compliance audit client. Therefore, client affiliate interpretation and state and local government client affiliate interpretation would not apply with respect to the compliance audit client. So you're not a financial statement attest client when you're doing a single audit, which makes sense. You're doing compliance audit, not a financial statement in there. Now, this was kind of an interesting, change in interpretation. So they also put out a series of Q&As. I'm kind of liking the new Q&A method. So if you go to aicpa.org/new code, highly recommend. They've started adding in there some Q&A documents that are much easier to find and reference. And so they have added a bunch related to compliance audits. So the first one is, what are some examples of a compliance audit? And so it says a compliance audit is a test engagement performed in accordance with AUC section 935, which is again compliance audits. When a compliance audit performed in accordance with AUC 935 also includes separate reporting under 725 or 805, and again they provided all the very long titles here. The definition extends to that statement or schedule. So they gave us some examples, right? So the reply really just repeated the standard. But where the examples come from, compliance audits performed in accordance with the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development Consolidated Audit Guide, or HUD audits. Compliance audit subject to U.S. Department of Education Office of the Inspector General's Guide for Audit of Proprietary Schools, and the compliance test engagement of third-party services administering Title IV programs, as well as compliance audits performed under Title II, Part 200, which is the uniform guidance. So they gave some nice examples of how we could be applying this. When the attest client attest engagement is not performed in accordance with AUC section 935, then the engagement does not include. So what are some examples? So SSAEs, right? Those are not going to fall within here. Financial statement attest engagements, again, they excluded compliance audits from that. Audits in accordance with 725 or 805 when you're not doing a compliance audit. We do have other uses of 725 for supplementary information and 805 when we have a single element that aren't part of 935 requirements, and so they would continue to fall within. And then compliance attest engagement subject to U.S. Department of Education Office of the Inspector General's Guide of Audits of Proprietary Schools as we go through here. So again, when we look at some of these definitions, I think it is very important here, because in this one it was performed in accordance with the SSAEs, which is the attestation standards instead of the audit standards. Another inquiry, when could there be multiple compliance audit clients in a compliance audit? And so again, they come back and they talk about how there's multiple, and they give the definition, trivial and clearly inconsequential, but then they give that example. And so in a compliance audit for a state and local government performed in accordance with uniform guidance, multiple agencies, departments, or components units within the state and local government may include amounts in the CEFA. Each entity reporting amounts in the CEFA in a compliance audit unless it is not subject to the procedures and also trivial or inconsequential. So again, kind of clarifying there. So then it got a little bit more tricky, because now maybe you are doing a financial statement audit and you're also doing a compliance audit for the same client. How do we handle the independence requirements here? So when you are performing a financial statement audit and a compliance audit for the same client, you should comply with the independence requirements for each attest engagement. And so in that scenario, they may be the same entities, they may be different, because again, the financial statements have to, you can have a series of them in order to do this. And so an evaluation of each engagement should be performed. Another one here, could the entities that are compliance audit clients change? Absolutely, right? You can update the CIFA, you can have changes. And so members should be alert to changes in the termination of a compliance audit client or compliance audit clients throughout the period of professional service. An entity that was excluded from the definition may become a compliance audit client either because it becomes subject to the compliance audit. Maybe we pick it now as an additional item, or because amounts are no longer trivial, right? We had a preliminary CIFA and now we have a final CIFA and it's no longer trivial. So we can't, you have to kind of continue to monitor just as you would anything else as you go through here. All right, I know this one was a little bit longer than normal, but I wanted to make sure because I know many of our clients do single audits. It's probably one of my favorite topics to teach. I love working with firms to help improve their single audit work papers, as well as find some efficiency in practice. So it is very important that we understand the independence requirements with respect to this. So I want to thank you guys so much for joining me, and I hope to see you on a future blog. Have a great day, guys. Bye-bye.